Gen Z and how, they're in a financial mindset that leads to a point where I think in years past it wouldn't have affected them as much, but now that money and the economy and the rate in which money is moving um, has been affected and has exponentially but also drastically increased over the last couple of years. Wealth building has increased over the last couple of years. It starts to create this mindset where people begin to say, you know what, like I'm going to leverage what I have now and hope for the best in the future, because the way that the market is moving at and how fast and how much money people are making, the pool in order to reach that wealth starts to get smaller and smaller for some people, and especially for the younger generation coming into the workforce already struggling in just getting into the workforce in general in order to make the means, and then understanding at a early time point that you're going to have a job and then probably some kind of side hustle, especially if you're going to want to make it and be successful. And money is a certain factor that's going to play a big role obviously in the next couple of years, and unless there's a reset, unless there's some kind of decline and then rebound, I think is going to be that this mindset of YOLO and just doing what you want in the current moment is going to persist. If there isn't that rebound, isn't that reset, it's like almost going into a game where you start off, everybody's at like a relatively good point. Your armor and equipment is about equal, and the players around you aren't necessarily, they're beating you, but like you still have somewhat of a chance, right? You can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? And now in the current economy, it's like someone put a glitch in the system, and now those that have wealth and had a little bit more time and the economy wasn't as bad, it boosted the system to where their armor, their equipment, and their loadouts are at a point where you're just like, yo, how in the hell am I gonna get to that? The same level grinding that they had to do, the glitch closed the door behind you, and now you have to do it. You have to do twice as much to get to the same level, right? So people at the end of the day start to realize like, yo, like, do I really want to continue in this game and fight just twice as hard to get to the boss, to get to that final destination? It's like, I don't know about that, dog. I don't know about that, dog. I mean, chilling here and kind of just, doing my thing and taking a day one day at a time, and just saying YOLO from time to time. It may be nice. It may actually make the game fun. At least the game will be fun rather than being a long grind that I gotta hope that at the end of this tunnel is gonna be something that's worth achieving. I mean, you never know. The way the glitch changed the game up, you're almost like, what is going on here? How did I get left out this glitch? What's happening? So we're gonna get into the video. Let me switch this over. This is by Chris Williamson, and I think it's a podcast with Caleb Hammer. Both have great podcasts. Caleb Hammer is one that has a financial podcast, and he brings on people from many generations, just hundreds and hundreds of people that are just in insane debt, and trying to work out getting a budget out of them. But in order to, and this is probably my top financial book, the psychology of money. He targets the psychology of the individual and tries to get their psychology to change, um, and their mindset on money to change, because unless you hit that root problem and why you're spending this much money and why you think that you don't have to worry about saving or spending in the future, you're never going to get out that trap. You're just going to end up in the same position over and over and over again until you'll really dig yourself a hole too deep to where you can't outwork the debt that you're in, right? So having this mindset at one point can be fun, but at what point does it start to begin to say, like, okay, like, you still have to think about your future? I mean, technology and medicine is, accelerating relatively quickly, and we're starting to get new technology in medicine, new AI, and how it's going to affect the longevity of human life, right? So if you're spending your money in this way, yes, you only got one life and anything can happen, but at the same time, with the way that medicine and technology is, the average person is probably going to live a lot longer than previously. Plus, on social media, you're going to have a lot more things such as, the health tips, all the gym bros, like all the ways that you can eat food nowadays. Like, everything is popping up on people's feeds that can either hurt them and make their lives shorter, or it can, if you leverage it properly, can definitely help you live longer. So having this mindset is definitely going to impact those, though. So let's see what they're
Gen Z borrowers are
about.
carrying more credit card debt than millennials did at the same age, despite growing up with more financial information than any generation before them.
Yeah.
98% of Gen Z say credit is important, but only 53% believe they have adequate access to it. And more than half of Americans have used buy now, pay later services. 59% of those users were Gen Z.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Paying for Klarna, everything. It's a very Gen Z thing. Tap to pay. Super easy to use those. They're at every checkout for any concert you go to, pretty much anything you want to do. So that's not surprising. There is, I'm forgetting the term off the top of my head, but it's something like doom loop or something that a lot of Gen Z is kind of getting into, where mostly because of the information out there and the algorithms they find themselves in, they think everything's going to be so bad forever. Why not just spend the money?
So, like, you see, and even with that, right, and when he goes to, like, the tap to pay and all that, I'm actually thinking about it here. Like, I think, because when I'm thinking about money, it's like a video game, right? You have your currency in order to buy your armor, buy your loot, upgrade your character, and unless you feel like you're hitting a certain point in the game, you don't necessarily just want to spend your money however you want, because you know that at the end of the day, you may pick up a piece of armor, you may pick up an upgrade along the way that you're going to want to save that currency in order to leverage later on in the game when the game starts to get a little bit more difficult, right? And being stuck in that loop of it's just so easy to just upgrade and just to level up. Like, you're just gaining so much material and you tap to pay, just going. There's plenty of ways to make money nowadays, but if you just think that the money is going to last forever, it makes it very easy to just spend it.
Why not just put it on a credit card? So it makes sense.
It seems to me like a big part of it is people being so unsure about the future and feeling like things are not going to get better that, well, fuck it. It's almost like the end of days. There's this interesting story about during the Blitz in World War II in London, the amount of casual sex that people were having went through the roof, but lingerie sales stayed the same. And it was just, people thought, look, I might die tomorrow. It doesn't really matter about how sexy I look in bed. Let's just get down to it. And it's kind of the financial equivalent of that. I'm just going to dump it all, which is this weird sort of recursive system. It's this self-reinforcing mechanism that if you have negative information about the economy and about the quality of life for young people and about how hard you've got it and the fact that it's never going to get better, that encourages people to behave in a way that makes the thing true.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of wild. Like,
and it's reality.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy
I also think that the incentives have been removed, right? So I think that when you don't have the incentive to, or at least the potential of an incentive where, you can afford a house later on in life, right? Like a lot of people that were in years prior to us were able to acquire housing around the time when Gen Z is like starting to get into the workforce, right? Because a lot of these people generally, once you got out of college, you were somewhat guaranteed some kind of work right out of college, right? There was a gap between those that went to college and those that didn't. And now that everybody goes to college, that great advantage that a lot of people had in the past kind of disappears. And now it's not just about have you gone to college, it's about have you got work experience, have you studied in the relative field that you're trying to work in, as well as get experience through your studies. Like it's not the same, because now your incentive is, okay, I got to work twice as hard, but I may not even guarantee the house that I want, or the living situation that I want, even just apartments. I mean, we've all seen the apartment prices, especially in New York. Obviously, New York's an anomaly, but across the nation, there has been an increase in rent, and people are starting to think like, yo, I can't even live on my own. Like it doesn't necessarily make sense to live on my own and get my own spot, because doing so might actually cause me to spend way out of my budget. At least those that are thinking financially. So now you're saying, okay, well, I really now have two options now. It's either I just say YOLO and just spend the money anyways and still try and live the life that was there previously, or I adapt and change how I think about money and start to think long term and maybe make sacrifices that the previous generation didn't have to make, but with the position that you're in, you may have to make those sacrifices.
That kind of gets not made out of nowhere. There are real material changes, but it's certainly worsened.
And it's tracked. The University of Michigan does consumer sentiment survey, and I think they've done it since the 1980s. And right now is one of the three lowest we've ever had. I think it was right when COVID kicked off, the Great Recession, and now. But now's not even near Great Recession in any other indicator anywhere. It's not right when COVID kicked off, when everything shut down and no one knew what was going to happen. But consumer sentiment is basically at an all-time low.
What do you think's going on?
Well, we are stuck in those algorithms. You make money on negativity. Like, even I have a documentary channel, more of a passion project, not much of a moneymaker, called...
It's cool. I like it.
Oh, thanks. Called Front Page. Still getting the feel of it. But either way, I mean, the reality is the topics that are interesting to talk about are the more negative ones. Super positive content isn't as interesting to talk about for whatever reason. I'm not interested in learning about super positive, not interested in talking about super positive. So
it doesn't feel urgent.
No, exactly. So that's the information that's getting out there. That's the information that catches people's attention, keeps them in the algorithm. So I'm not surprised at all. I mean, nightly news, other than one fluff piece, is usually just negative, negative, negative. Even about the heat outside, it's like the apocalypse. It's always just negative. So it's not surprising. That's what drives our attention. So it drives the algorithm. So,
I mean, negative conversations generally, negative things that are happening generally lead to conversation, right? Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to just, creating just ideas and philosophies, like generally negative information is going to lead to more of the conversation, just because of and it always goes back to incentives, because people are like, yo, we got to get rid of this negative thing. I think humans naturally also just look to have comfort, and when you're always looking for comfort, you want to remove as much of the negatives as possible. So when you see the negative, you want to attack it, you want to get it out of here, and really start to motivate in just completely removing it. But the positive stuff, it can lead to conversation, but at the end of the day, you're only going to want to see that a couple times, and then you're like, all right, like, that's great, but what's really going on out here?
Consumer sentiment will, of course, be lower.
Right, and that is impacting people's behavior, which actually brings that reality, brings that imagination into reality, or brings the news feed into your finances. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, even though consumer spending is actually relatively healthy overall. Like, this isn't the best year in our economy, but it's also not even close to the worst year. Things are relatively healthy. There's some bad things, like I called out. There's the new graduates, bad job market for new graduates. And there's a lot of things at play there. There are a lot of things at play there. There's the nervousness of AI. There was the overhiring during the tech boom during COVID. They've cut back there. And if there's no people leaving their jobs voluntarily, there's no jobs opening, and the people that are leaving their jobs in tech are the one getting laid off, and they're not rehiring someone who's getting laid off. So those job openings that were there during the pandemic aren't there. So there's actual negative things happening right now, but it's not the overall economic situation. We're still having okay GDP growth, post-inflation. The war in Iran, done, allegedly. We'll see.
Is it?
He signed the idea of peace or something yesterday, and so did Iran, the leader
Fuck
of Iran.
me. That's like a guy with erectile dysfunction saying, I've signed the idea of erection today.
Yeah.
Signed the idea of a penis. I want to get you to react to a financial case here. Can we pull up that TikTok, Jared?
I've had such a bad financial burden the last couple years. So after meeting with an attorney and doing lots of research, I realized that filing bankruptcy really isn't as bad as it's made out to be, and it was truly going to be my best bet. I decided to file Chapter 7, and truthfully, my consumer debt really is not that bad. A lot of people have it a lot worse financially, but for me, $91,000 was just too much. It was uncomfortable, and I just wanted to get a fresh start. I moved to Texas directly after high school, and I made a lot of very irresponsible decisions financially and really dug myself into a big hole of debt. I decided, let's go ahead and file bankruptcy. Let's give myself a clean slate. That way I can stop stressing and I can actually do better. Okay, just to keep...
Honestly, you would hope that most of that is the student loan debt, because to get to $91,000 in debt, and even then it's like, how do you even get that deep at 22? What could you possibly need in your life that much that you need to be spending that much money by 22 years old? Like, where are your parents? Where are your parents? And even without your parents, like, I mean, not without them, but how did you end up spending anywhere near that kind of money? And I guess this kind of goes back to community and just structure and family. Like, there's no way that your father allowed this, and if it's not your father, whether it's your brothers or maybe a potential other relative in the family, a male figure, to tell you like, yo, like, why are you spending all this money? And there's plenty of women that are financially savvy as well. How do you get to this point? You have nobody. And also, and the negativity of the internet can play a factor in this, plus all the ads that are just unloading a clip on everything that you see. It's like, dang, well, can I get a break? Like, you gotta give me an ad every 5 seconds. Every 3 swipes has to be an ad. It's getting to a point where it's like, guys, like, come on. This is why I stay on YouTube, because there's no way I'm gonna be sitting here watching ads all day. And there's people that are doom scrolling, especially Gen Z, that are like, I just don't have the motivation and incentive to go and work. And they're doom scrolling and they're just seeing all these ads pop up in their face. And now they're like, well, I mean, I might as well buy this. This can make me happy. It's just that dopamine hit of just buying something new, something that you want, or something that you want and you think that you need. And it gives you that dopamine rush, gives you that dopamine hit. You set it up all new, whatever, and then boom. It's gone. It has no value anymore. And you're just racking up debt. Can't even pay for any of the things that you're buying. Makes absolutely no sense.
A little breakdown of the debt that I do have that totals up to the $91,300. I owe about $51,000 on the vehicle that I have. We did try selling that, trading it in, all that good stuff, but way too much negative equity to come out on top. I bought a motorcycle back in 2022. Thought that was a great idea.
Fucking Americans.
Sorry. What did she say? Go back. Sorry.
Not able to get what we owe out of it. And
sorry. We have to go back and hear what else she had. That's insane.
I
Fucking
owe $5,000
Americans.
still on that same thing. Tried selling it, not able to get what we in
Was it
2022. Thought that was a great idea. I
Fucking
owe $5,000
Americans.
still on that same thing. Tried selling it, not able to get what we owe out of it. I do own a camper, and I owe about $13,400 on that.
She's
However,
retarded.
I live out of that camper because I can't afford a house. So I am keeping that since I do live in it. I have $2,200 worth of medical bills that I had no idea were in collections. And then I have $12,000 worth of student loans. However, those do not get forgiven with bankruptcy, so I will still continue that payment. And then I have about $7,700 worth of credit card debt, all coming into a grand total of $91,300.
First of all,
Credit
How
card
much
debt.
was the credit card
I'll
debt?
continue that payment. And then I have about $7,700 worth of credit card debt,
77.
all coming into a grand total of $91,300.
first of all, okay, yes, it is harder to get into a home now. Yes, a large down payment is difficult to get to. Interest is not great on a house. How in the world does she think she's possibly going to... Sorry, I don't mean to scream at you. You're not a guest on my show. Why does she think... In what world does she think she is ever going to get to home ownership if she's getting camper, motorcycle, and a $50,000 car? $50,000 car when she's moving to a brand new state. This is so American. We are so debt brain broken. And she's actually right. I mean, bankruptcy is actually not that hard, not that brutal. A little expensive, but it's really not the worst. It fucks your credit for a bit, and it's not a good learning lesson. People usually end up in the same situation they are without changing their behavior before going through bankruptcy. So, but she is right on that. But how did she ever expect? She can't get sympathy of not buying a house if she's getting a camper, motorcycle, and car, of which minimum payments on the camper, on the motorcycle and car are likely over $1,000 together. Like $1,000 going against anyone's income, unless you're like in the top 1%, is going to aggressively prevent you from saving anything. Remember, she can get an FHA loan on her first house. She can get, what is that, as low as 1.5%, something like that, down on your first house. How is she surprised? You can't get anywhere.
It's that low right now?
And that also is really stupid, getting a trailer instead of renting an apartment, because she's getting debt on a depreciating asset. It's almost even worse because an expense could pop up, have to get new tires.
Right.
She has to pay rent anyway, likely to park somewhere and get the utilities plugged in.
Oh my gosh. That's even worse. Oh my gosh. So now you not only have to pay for, I mean, what you're paying for maintenance, obviously, on like your property, like it's all factored into one budget when you do like rent. But at the same time, it's like you're already paying, like, you're already gonna have to pay for the utilities, pay for everything. What sense did that even make? So she got what, 3 or 4 vehicles for almost $90,000. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, you can't even make that up. That's like spending all your money on one weapon with no armor, bro. Like, what are we doing? You're just running around naked at that point. Like, it makes absolutely no sense.
Most people have no idea where their testosterone levels sit. But what if I told you there was a solution? Something that identifies low T faster than I.
Listen, guys. We gotta make sure we're not making financial decisions like that. I mean, Caleb Hammer, he has like, and this was something that really is so entertaining to see, because the way that people even get into that, you just start to think like, So you sat there, you looked up the information, you researched it, you analyzed the whole situation, you looked at your bank account, and you said, I mean, I got $10,000 worth of credit here, but I got like $500 in the account. I mean, I could work it out. If I get like a $30, $40 a month payment, right? Plus all my other expenses, I could probably start making that work. And then you hit book. You don't think the government's gonna collect that, brother? You don't think they're gonna start like Like there's no future. You're just like, well, I mean, I got the credit here. I mean, why not? What's gonna happen in 10 years, bro? Like, what are you gonna do in like 20 years? You're just gonna carry that debt with you like this? Like, come on, guys. We gotta do better. Gotta do better. Gotta do better. And like, I understand the negativity, the no incentives, and not being able to see the future. But at the end of the day, like you literally just got out of college. How are you already starting negative health? You're basically starting negative health to start the game. And you have to fight your way just to start gaining your HP back. It makes absolutely no sense. Guys, we got to start doing better. Got to make sure we don't end up in positions like this. Make sure we save our money. Make sure you read the book Psychology of Money so that you don't have the mindset to just think that money is just whatever and it could just fall out your pocket, right? And understand how your mind works around money and leverage it rather than hinder yourself. Because at the end of the day, technology, medicine, life is going to keep moving on. You got to look at the brighter side of things and start looking to see where you can get little wins, but that don't cost you financially. Listen, guys, make sure you like, subscribe. As always, stay glitched out.